The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning at the United Earth Embassy in New York. The holographic display flickered to life, showing strange symbols that slowly transformed into English text. The staff watched in silence as humanity received its first official contact from the Galactic Council. James Walker stood by the window of his office, looking out at the busy streets below. At 55 years old, with graying hair and steady brown eyes, he had spent 30 years in diplomatic service, but nothing in his career had prepared him for this moment. "Ambassador Walker," General Thompson said, his voice firm as he read from the message. "The Council demands a human representative within 14 Earth days. They're sending a ship." Walker turned from the window. The morning sunlight cast long shadows across the room where Earth's top military and diplomatic leaders had gathered. Their faces showed a mix of worry and excitement. "They're not asking," Walker noted, studying the message floating in the air. "They're ordering us to appear." He could see the subtle insults woven into the formal language. The Council referred to Earth as a developing sphere, and to humans as newly emerged sentients. "They think we're children," Dr. Roberts said, adjusting her glasses. The chief xenologist had spent years studying the fragments of alien communications they'd picked up. "This whole message reads like a teacher summoning a troublesome student." General Thompson paced the room, his metals clicking softly. "We just achieved faster-than-light travel last year. How did they even know?" "They've been watching us," Walker said, "probably for a long time." He walked to his desk and picked up a tablet showing Earth's latest achievements. The Morrison Drive had revolutionized space travel, letting ships bend space itself. They had colonies on Mars, research stations around Jupiter, and mining operations in the asteroid belt. "Our sensors detected their ship entering the solar system," Captain Lee reported, pulling up a holographic image. "It's massive, about 3 kilometers long. They'll reach Earth orbit in 13 days. Walker sat down heavily in his chair. "They're not giving us much choice. We either show up at their council, or we look like scared children hiding from the adults." "It could be a trap," General Thompson warned. "We should send a military escort." "No," Walker cut in. "That would just prove their point about us being violent primitives." He stood up and faced the group. "I'll go alone. Well, with a small diplomatic staff. But no warships." Dr. Roberts stepped forward. "James, this is crazy. We know almost nothing about these species. The Council message mentions 15 different alien races, each with their own customs and taboos. One wrong word cold." "Then I better start studying," Walker said with a slight smile. "Send me everything we have on alien cultures, languages, and protocols. I've got 13 days to become an expert." The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. Walker barely slept, absorbing information about the known alien species. He learned about their hierarchical structure, their ancient histories, and their technological achievements. The more he learned, the more he understood the Council's condescending tone. Some of these species had been traveling between stars when humans were still figuring out how to make fire. They had built artificial planets, reshaped entire solar systems, and mastered sciences that Earth's best minds were only beginning to grasp. On the morning of the 13th day, Walker stood in the launch facility, dressed in Earth's formal diplomatic uniform, a simple black suit with the United Earth insignia. His small team of 4 assistants stood behind him, each carrying devices filled with Earth's history, achievements, and cultural records. The alien ship hung in orbit above them, a massive silver crescent visible even in daylight. A smaller shuttle was descending to collect them. "Remember," Walker told his team, "they expect us to be primitive, violent, and simple. Let them think that for now." He smiled slightly. "Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage you can have." The shuttle landed, its sleek surface gleaming under Earth's sun. As the door opened with a soft hiss, Walker took his first step toward changing humanity's place in the galaxy. Whether the Council knew it or not, they weren't summoning a primitive species to be judged. They were about to meet their future equals. The alien shuttle broke through the last layer of light-speed space, revealing a sight that made Walker's breath catch in his throat. The Council Station hung against the backdrop of a pulsing neutron star, its massive ring structure spanning 50 kilometers of space. Countless ships moved around it like glowing insects, their designs more artwork than engineering. "They're scanning us," reported Tom, one of Walker's assistants, checking their instruments. "Their technology. It's like they're using our sensors as toys." Walker watched as their small shuttle approached one of the countless docking bays. The alien pilot, a tall being with silvery skin, hadn't spoken a word during their 3-day journey. Now it simply gestured for them to exit. The moment they stepped into the station, Walker felt the weight of countless alien eyes. The massive arrival hall bustled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some floated in anti-gravity fields, others walked on multiple legs, and a few seemed to phase in and out of reality itself. "Ah, the humans have arrived," a voice echoed in perfect English. A tall, blue-skinned being approached them, its long robes trailing behind. "I am first speaker Rand. I've been assigned to guide you." Walker noticed the slight pause before the word guide. He bowed slightly, a gesture he had learned was neutral among most species. "We're honored to be here." "Yes, yes," Rand waved a 3-fingered hand dismissively. "Your quarters have been adapted to your primitive environmental needs. Please follow." As they walked through the station's curved corridors, Walker observed the reactions of other aliens. Most barely glanced at them, as if humans were too insignificant to notice. Others pointed and made sounds that their universal translators didn't bother converting. Probably jokes or insults. Their quarters turned out to be a small plain section near the outer ring. Walker could see their shuttle through the window, parked among massive ships that made it look like a toy. "The Council will see you tomorrow," Rand said. "Try not to touch anything you don't understand." Which I assume will be most things. With that, he turned and left. "Well, they're not trying to hide their opinion of us," Tom muttered, setting up their equipment. Walker walked to the window, studying the station's architecture. "Notice anything strange?" he asked his team. Mary, their cultural expert, nodded. "The technology. It's mixed. Some areas look ancient, others brand new. It's like they're deliberately showing off different eras." "Exactly," Walker smiled. "And did you see how the younger species acted around the older ones? Always deferring, always asking permission. There's something wrong with that picture." He spent the next few hours exploring the public areas of their section, observing the interaction between species. The hierarchy was clear. The older the species, the more respect they commanded. Innovation and new ideas seemed to be discouraged in favor of traditional methods. That evening, as his team prepared for the next day's council session, a small alien child, at least Walker assumed it was a child, approached their quarters entrance. It looked at their Earth equipment with obvious curiosity. "Would you like to see?" Walker asked gently. The child's parent quickly pulled it away, chittering something that the translator rendered as, "Don't touch their primitive tools. You don't know where they've been." Walker watched them leave, thinking hard. In just one day, he'd seen something remarkable. Fear. Not fear of humanity's violence or unpredictability, but fear of their potential. The older species weren't mocking humans out of pure arrogance. They were establishing dominance early. "Get some rest," he told his team. "Tomorrow, we're going to show them something they've forgotten, what real innovation looks like." As he lay in his bed that night, watching the neutron star pulse through the window, Walker smiled. The council thought they were dealing with simple primitives. They were about to learn that understanding runs deeper than age, and wisdom isn't measured in centuries. The council chamber stretched upward in towering tiers, filled with representatives from 15 spacefaring civilizations. Walker stood at the speaking platform, a small circle of light in the vast chamber. Above him, faces of all shapes and colors looked down with expressions ranging from boredom to contempt. Humans, the Grand Speaker's voice boomed through the chamber. The ancient being's crystalline form sparkled under the chamber's lights. You stand before the Galactic Council to petition for recognition. Begin your presentation. Walker cleared his throat. Honorable Council, Earth thanks you for. Is it true, interrupted a reptilian counselor, that your species still fights wars over resources? Walker paused, noting how quickly they tried to throw him off balance. We have conflicts, yes. But we're learning to. And is it true, another voice cut in, that you burned fossil fuels even after discovering their damage to your planet? The chamber filled with sounds that the translator rendered as laughter. Walker stood calmly, watching the show they were putting on. This wasn't a hearing. It was a public humiliation. Tell us, the Grand Speaker said, why should we recognize a species that nearly destroyed their only planet? That split the atom only to make weapons. That still carries primitive emotions like anger and pride. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Walker noticed some younger species joining in nervously, as if afraid not to laugh. You make interesting points, Walker said quietly. The chamber fell silent, perhaps surprised he hadn't tried to defend against their accusations. But I have a question in return. How long did it take your species to achieve faster-than-light travel? The Grand Speaker's crystalline form flickered with blue light. We discovered the principles of space folding after 12,000 years of civilization. 9,000 for us, called another counselor. 7,000, added another, sounding proud. Walker nodded slowly. Humanity did it in less than 300 years. From our first powered flight to crossing light speed in 3 centuries. Does that not make you curious? The chamber erupted in protests and dismissals. Impossible. They must have stolen the technology. They're lying. The Grand Speaker raised a limb for silence. You claim this achievement, yet your technology is crude. Your ships are inelegant. Your methods are chaotic. Yes, Walker agreed. We are young. We make mistakes. We try things that sometimes fail spectacularly. But we learn. We adapt. We move forward. He looked around the chamber. When was the last time any of you tried something truly new? A deep silence fell over the chamber. You dare question our methods? The Grand Speaker's voice turned dangerous. We have guided countless species to the stars. We have maintained peace for millennia. You know nothing of true civilization. Walker stood straighter. Then teach us. Show us your records. Let us learn from your history. If we are as primitive as you say, prove it to us. The council members looked at each other uneasily. Finally, the Grand Speaker spoke. You wish to see our records? Very well. You have 24 hours to study our archives. Tomorrow, you will return and show us what you have learned. Then we will decide if humanity deserves a place among civilized species. Thank you. Walker bowed slightly. One small request. I notice your archives are organized by species age. Might I have access to the records of younger species as well, to better understand the path we should follow? The Grand Speaker waved dismissively. Granted, though I doubt you will understand much of it. As Walker left the chamber, he heard the mocking laughter resume. But he smiled to himself. They had just given him exactly what he needed. Access to their complete historical records. Tom. He called to his assistant as they walked back to their quarters. Get the data analysis programs ready. We got a long night ahead of us. I think we're about to find out why some species advance so quickly, while others. He glanced back at the council chamber. Seemed to barely advance at all. The archive room hummed with quiet energy as Walker and his team worked through the night. Holographic displays filled the air around them, showing thousands of years of galactic history. Tom's fingers flew across his tablet, running analysis programs on the massive amount of data they were discovering. There it is again, Mary said, pointing to a chart. Every time a young species makes a breakthrough, the council steps in with guidance. She made air quotes with her fingers. And then their progress just stops. Walker nodded. his tired eyes fixed on the patterns emerging before them. For 6 hours straight, they had been discovering something disturbing. The Council wasn't just guiding younger species, they were systematically suppressing them. "Look at the Centurions," Tom said, pulling up another display. "They invented a new form of energy production." The Council immediately stepped in, saying it was too dangerous for a young species. Now they're completely dependent on Council technology. Walker stood up and stretched, walking to the window where the neutron star pulsed in the distance. "It's not just technology," he said. "It's their whole system. The Council creates dependency. They make younger species doubt themselves." Mary pulled up more records. "The pattern is clear. A species joins the Council, and within a generation, they stop innovating. They follow the approved path of development. Those who resist." She gestured to a list of species marked as rejected or contained. "But why?" Tom asked, rubbing his tired eyes. "Why hold everyone back?" Walker turned from the window, his face illuminated by the holographic displays. "Control," he said simply. "The older species aren't just preserving peace, they're preserving their power. They're terrified of being surpassed." He walked to the central display, where a timeline showed the development of various species. "Look at humanity's progress curve compared to others. We advanced more in the last century than most species do in 1,000 years. We did it because we had to compete, to solve our own problems. And we made mistakes," Mary added, understanding dawning on her face. "Lots of them. But we learned from each one." Walker nodded, beginning to organize the data into a presentation. "The Council doesn't just hate our methods. They're afraid of them. We represent everything they've been trying to prevent. Rapid, uncontrolled progress." Tom looked up from his tablet. "I found something else. The Council's own records show their member species are starting to stagnate. They haven't made a major scientific breakthrough in over 500 years. Walker smiled grimly. "Because they forgot how to innovate. They've been so focused on controlling progress that they've stopped making any of their own." He looked at the time display. They had 6 hours until the Council session. "Here's what we're going to do," he said, his voice firm. "Tom, compile the development rates of all species before and after Council membership. Mary, find the examples of rejected technologies that we humans developed safely. And he picked up his tablet, "am going to write a speech that will shake their perfect little system to its core." As his team worked, Walker thought about Earth, about how humans had nearly destroyed themselves several times, but had always pulled back from the edge. How they had learned to harness nuclear power, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, all technologies the Council considered too dangerous for young species. "Sir," Tom called out, "what if they reject us? What if they try to contain Earth like they did with other rebellious species?" Walker looked at the data floating before him, proof of centuries of manipulation and suppression. "They won't," he said confidently, "because we're going to give them a choice. Adapt or become obsolete. And we're going to show every species in that chamber that they've been living in a cage, a comfortable, safe, progress-killing cage." He began organizing their findings into a presentation that would change the galaxy forever. The Council wanted to see what humanity has learned. He smiled. "Let's show them exactly how dangerous a truly free species can be." The Council chamber fell silent as Walker took his place at the speaking platform. Dark circles under his eyes showed his sleepless night, but his stance was confident. Above him, the Grand Speaker's crystalline form glowed with smug satisfaction, clearly expecting another chance to mock humanity. "Honorable Council," Walker began, his voice clear and strong. "You asked us to study your history, to learn from your wisdom." He pressed a button on his tablet, and the chamber's massive displays came to life. "We did exactly that." A timeline appeared, showing the development of various species. "This is the average technological progress of a species before joining the Council." The line climbed steadily upward. "And this," he continued, Is there progress after joining? The line flattened dramatically. Murmurs filled the chamber. The Grand Speaker's glow flickered. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Walker replied. I'm showing you your own data. Let's look at the Arcosians. He pulled up another chart. They developed spaceflight in just 500 years. Then they joined the Council. In the 2,000 years since, they've made exactly 3 technological advances. We guide species to prevent disasters. A counselor shouted. Do you? Walker asked quietly. He displayed images of Earth. This is how we cleaned our oceans. Another image. This is how we reversed climate change. More images appeared. This is how we learned to live with artificial intelligence, to cure diseases, to terraform Mars. The chamber erupted in protests, but Walker raised his voice slightly. Every single one of these technologies was on your forbidden list. Technologies you claimed were too dangerous for young species. Yet here we stand, alive and thriving. He turned to face the younger species representatives. In 200 years, humanity went from horse-drawn carriages to faster-than-light travel. We did it because we were free to try, to fail, and to learn from our failures. Enough. The Grand Speaker's voice boomed. You dare to question our wisdom. Walker smiled. Actually, I'm questioning your courage. He displayed new data. The Council hasn't produced a major scientific breakthrough in 500 years. You've been so busy holding others back that you've forgotten how to move forward. He walked away from the platform, gesturing at the displays. Look at your own history. The greatest achievements of every species here came before they joined the Council, before they started following your approved path of development. The younger species representatives were leaning forward now, their expressions intense. Walker saw several of them checking the data on their own devices, verifying his claims. Humanity doesn't want your guidance, Walker continued. We want partners, equals, species who aren't afraid to push boundaries, to take risks, to learn and grow. He looked directly at the Grand Speaker. We want to work with those who want to build the future, not just preserve the past. A small green-skinned representative from a younger species stood up. How did you achieve such progress without destroying yourselves? Walker smiled warmly. By competing. By letting different groups try different solutions. By learning from our mistakes instead of avoiding them. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it's sometimes dangerous. But it works. He displayed one final image. Earth's various space stations, colonies, and ships. This is what freedom to innovate looks like. And we're willing to share everything we've learned with any species who wants to work with us as equals. The chamber erupted in chaos. Younger species representatives were standing, asking questions, while older members shouted for order. The Grand Speaker's crystalline form was pulsing with angry red light. The Council will recess to discuss this. Presentation, the Grand Speaker announced. As Walker left the platform, he noticed several younger species representatives hurrying toward him, their eyes bright with interest and hope. Behind them, the older Council members huddled together, their comfortable world of control beginning to crumble. The revolution had begun, not with weapons or violence, but with something far more powerful. The truth about progress itself. The Council's private chamber buzzed with heated arguments. Walker stood calmly at the center, surrounded by towering alien forms. The Grand Speaker's crystalline body now pulsed with deep red light, a sign of extreme agitation. You have overstepped, human. The Grand Speaker's voice thundered. You were meant to learn your place, not disrupt the entire galactic order. Walker remained steady. Was that order serving anyone besides the eldest species? He gestured to the younger representatives gathered nearby. Ask them if they're satisfied with being held back. Held back. A tall, ancient counselor floated forward. We protected them. Without our guidance, they would have destroyed themselves, just as you humans nearly did. Yet here we stand, Walker replied, having survived our mistakes and grown stronger from them. He turned to address the whole chamber. How many of your species faced extinction events? How many nearly destroyed themselves before finding a better path? Silence fell across the room. Many of the older species shifted uncomfortably. That's why you fear us, isn't it? Walker continued. Not because we're dangerous, but because we prove your entire system wrong. We show that species can survive their growing pains without your control. A younger representative, one Walker recognized as from the Tellurian species, stepped forward. The human speaks truth. My people haven't made a significant advance in 3 centuries. Our brightest minds leave science to become administrators. Because administration is safe, the Grand Speaker boomed. Because order prevents chaos. Order prevents progress, Walker corrected. He pulled out his tablet, displaying new data. Look at these numbers. Earth has more patent applications in a single year than most council species have in a decade. We have more scientific papers published in a month than some of you have in a century. More younger species began to speak up. Our mining colonies are failing because we're not allowed to develop new extraction technologies. Our medical research has stagnated. We've lost the drive to explore. The Grand Speaker's light pulsed faster. Enough. This is sedition. Guards, remove the human. But the station's security forces didn't move. They looked uncertain, their programming to obey the council conflicting with the truth they'd just heard. Walker smiled slightly. You can remove me, but you can't remove the truth. Your own records prove everything I've said. He looked around the chamber. I speak now to every species here. Earth offers you a choice. Stay under the Council's protection if you wish, or join us in a new alliance, one based on cooperation, not control, on innovation, not stagnation. You destroy millennia of peace. The Grand Speaker rage. Peace. Walker laughed quietly. You mean submission. Real peace comes from strength and mutual respect, not from one group controlling all others. A wave of agreements swept through the younger species. More representatives stepped away from the older council members, moving to stand near Walker. The Grand Speaker's light dimmed slightly, sensing the shift in power. And if we refuse to allow this, rebellion. Walker's expression hardened. Then explain to your people why you're refusing to let them advance. Explain why you're choosing to fall behind. Earth's ships already match your best vessels, and we did that in 2 centuries. Imagine what we'll achieve in another 2. He walked to the chamber's center display and entered a code. I'm transmitting Earth's complete technological database to every species here. Everything we've learned, our successes and our failures. It's your choice whether to use it. The older council members watched in horror as their carefully maintained system of control began to crumble. Younger species were already downloading the data, their representatives talking excitedly among themselves. You've started a fire you can't control, the Grand Speaker warned. Walker looked up at the ancient being and smiled. That's exactly the point. Progress, true progress, can't be controlled. It can only be achieved by those brave enough to embrace change. He turned to leave, followed by a growing group of younger species representatives. Behind him, the old council's power was dissolving, replaced by something new, hope. 6 months after Walker's confrontation with the council, the galaxy had changed more than anyone could have predicted. The massive window in his new office on Earth's orbital diplomatic station showed a constant stream of alien ships arriving and departing. Vessels of all shapes and sizes, carrying scientists, engineers, and diplomats from dozens of species. Another breakthrough from the Tellurians, Tom reported, entering the office with a tablet. They've completely redesigned their energy grid using a combination of their crystal technology and our fusion principles. Energy production is up 300%. Walker smiled, watching a sleek Tellurian ship dock at the station. How many species have joined the Free Science Alliance now? 23, Mary answered, looking up from her desk. The younger council species jumped at the chance. But here's the interesting part. 3 of the older species have joined too. They're saying they're tired of stagnation. Through the window, Walker could see Earth's latest achievement, a massive ring-shaped structure taking shape in orbit. It would be the galaxy's first free exchange center, where species could share knowledge, conduct joint research, and collaborate on new technologies. The old council is still fighting it, Tom said, bringing up another report. They're trying to claim we're destabilizing the galaxy. But it's hard to make that argument when every species in the Alliance is reporting major technological and social advances. Walker nodded, remembering the Council's final warning about uncontrolled progress leading to disaster. Instead, the opposite had happened. Species working together had solved problems that had stumped them for centuries. Latest reports from Mars, Mary added excitedly. The joint terraforming project is years ahead of schedule. The Arcosian atmospheric processors, combined with our weather control systems and Tellurian crystal gardens, they're saying it'll be fully habitable in just 5 years. Walker walked to a display showing the various ongoing projects across Alliance space. The Centaurians had revolutionized space travel by combining their ancient knowledge of stellar mechanics with Earth's innovative drive systems. The Virati, once considered too primitive by the Council, had helped solve major medical challenges by applying their unique understanding of biological systems. "Sir," Tom interrupted his thoughts, "the Grand Speaker is requesting another meeting." Walker sighed. The old Council leader had been making regular attempts to regain control, alternating between threats and offers of cooperation under their terms. "Tell them the same thing we always do. They're welcome to join the Alliance as equals. No special privileges, no control over other species." A small alert chimed on his desk. The Tellurian ambassador was asking if Earth would help them establish their own Academy of Sciences. The old Council had never allowed them to have one, claiming they weren't ready for advanced research. "Remember when they laughed at us?" Mary asked, smiling as she watched a group of young alien scientists hurrying through the station's corridor, heading to a joint research symposium. "Now they're trying to copy us," Tom added. "I heard the old Council is attempting to create their own innovation initiative, but they still want to control everything." Walker sat down at his desk, looking at a message from Earth's government. They wanted him to head up an expanded diplomatic corps, training representatives from all species in the new principles of galactic cooperation. "They never understood," he said quietly, "that true strength doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from working together, from being free to try new ideas, to fail and learn and grow." Outside the window, a new ship design caught his eye. A joint project between 5 different species, combining the best aspects of each civilization's technology. It was ugly by traditional Council standards, but it was faster, more efficient, and more powerful than anything the galaxy had seen before. Just like humanity, he smiled, watching the ship prepare for its first test flight. Not always pretty, not always graceful, but always moving forward. The ship engaged its engines, creating a beautiful spiral of energy as it accelerated away from the station. Behind it, dozens of other ships followed, carrying the combined dreams and aspirations of species finally free to reach for the stars on their own terms.